Right, bits of technology are working. I'm not seeing a big pile of green dots there, so I'm just going to check that, see whether we are actually working really well. So 5 minutes before we are there we go. That's working.
Yeah.
According to that,
yeah.
Surprisingly, it's
that's weird. Why isn't that?
Wonder what that's wonder why that's not working.
Yeah. Is it the mic? The mic's on, isn't it? If you click the little.
If you're watching this, folks, type something to tell me you can hear me.
Oh, thanks, Louie.
So yeah, it'd be really good if you could just look at that there or there, depending on which side you've got it. I can't tell if you can hear me. Otherwise, I'm just going to check something else.
Yeah.
We definitely.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, great news.
Awesome.
That's fantastic. Right. Well, welcome to the Joe and Dave radio show. So obviously we're a couple of minutes for some people to join us because we've kicked off straight away. I thought we'd share some hot digital marketing news. Some couple social media trends that we picked up on this morning. Apparently PewDiePie has lost his crown as the most subscribed YouTube channel. So I don't know who it is now, but
T-series apparently.
Yeah. Let's find out what's going on with that in Instagrammer or whatever influencer and see if they're any good. People are losing up to £3.2 million a year on Instagram as frauders target teenagers and persuade them to part with their hard-earned cash. And MPs think that social media is an addiction. We have a view on that.
Apparently, it should be classified as a disease.
Yeah. People have, I think our colleague Bex has got some very strong views that it's not addictive. People have tendencies to be addicted to things, but social media per se isn't an addiction. But that, again, that's an interesting one. And the big new thing in China is you pay to join social groups so that people can pay you compliments.
Yeah, paying to get compliments.
What a nice guy you are. So that's what's hot today. We'll share some of those links towards the end. So I thought, Joe, we'd have a look at section C.
That sounds like a good place to start.
This isn't scripted at all, folks. We're just looking at our notes that we've got there. And I know we've been through it a couple of times already, but I think it's probably quite useful, especially if Joe's going to interrogate me about what I mean, which is important because as Joe's one of the assessors, it's going to be really important that she knows what we're looking for. So that's quite a helpful thing. So just a quick reminder, there's 3 tasks.
Yeah.
You've got to create a matrix. And in that, you're going to identify the digital and social media marketing levers that you could use in your campaign to acquire, convert and retain that target audience. So it's about achieving your digital comms objectives. So you've got to do a matrix with things in, and we can talk a bit more about what might go in there.
And I believe there's a template for that somewhere.
Yeah, template up on Moodle. It's a spreadsheet. It gives you a basic table. Great place to start to get all your information together. Will you make it beautiful though? That's the thing. How do you make it look better than just my basic Excel template? It's prompt, but you could actually make something really good looking. And when you've done that, those choices that you could look at, we're going to ask you to make some clusters. So what combinations of levers can you pull together that would work really well to acquire or convert or retain someone? And then I want you to do some mock-ups. So show me what they would literally look like when you put all those things together. So let's break that down into the literal tasks. So that very first one, identify and consider the use of digital and social media marketing levers in a digital comms matrix. What's a lever? That's the question that
How do
always
we
comes
define
up.
it?
What's a lever?
Yeah.
So we've got product levers,
Yeah.
pricing levers, channel levers, organic levers, and paid levers. And sometimes people also use brand levers as well.
Yeah.
So if you think of the 5 basic things, levers are the things that we use to make people do something. So you think about a lever is used for moving the earth. We're going to use these levers to move customers, and that's why we use that phrase.
Yeah.
It's quite an American phrase.
Yeah.
So you often see it in the American literature around things that make people do the thing that you want them to do, and that's probably where it's come from.
We've talked about those different levers. So if we're looking at things like product levers, like pricing levers, we've done those in seminars. So people, and there's lectures about it. And
I think you should grill me on what I really mean about product levers and pricing levers. So it's
okay.
It's probably worth us talking about all those things again, because people are all going, oh, I can't think of one.
So I think with the product levers, because there's things like core and there's like augmented, and we've talked about things like social. So that might be worth talking to these guys.
Yeah, I think just reminding ourselves of what those things are is really important. So you've got to, before you even start this, remember it's not an essay. So the first thing is going to be this big table, and
that's A3.
Yeah, even though it's not ever printed, you can use an A. If it helps people conceptualize an A3 sort of landscape table. So think about the one PSO that you're working on, and the one single target audience, the number one target audience that you're going to focus on. And remember what the acquisition comms objective is for that target audience, the conversion comms objective, and the retention comms objective. You just need to make it clear. You don't have to go through any process of justification or anything. I just say, this is what we decided. So now everything is about making that audience get into that PSO and convert and then be retained.
And you might want to put that at the top so it'll direct your thinking. So you're like, what was my acquisition objective? Who was my target audience for that? Yeah,
and it reminds the marker as well, because the person who's marking your individual assignment might not be the person who marked your group assignment.
Yeah.
So it's just easy to remind everyone, and just makes a lot of sense. So put this table together and think about what's going in every part of that table. So you've got acquisition, conversion, and retention across the top, and you've got product levers, pricing levers, organic, paid, channel, and maybe brand. So what would you put in the first box? What product levers could you put in the box that's under acquisition or conversion or retention? So let's think about products again, and there are 3 main fundamentals. So there's the core benefit, which is what is the value that your target audience seeks from your product? What is it that they want? So like the core benefit of a drill is I can make holes in it, or I can look all manly if I'm a balding 50-year-old man who's putting on a bit of weight. You know, what is it that somebody wants from that product or that service or the whole offering? So you've got to think of the value that they seek, and that's, you've got to think about why, you know, you're going to think about why you believe that, and you'll be talking about that in your pros and cons in a minute. But what is it you think they're after? And you need to make sure that that target audience, now that might be a search behavior, or it could be some kind of psychographic quality or a locational attribute.
Like an interest maybe.
Something about that target audience is letting you know what they want out of something. So think about what the core benefit is. And there might be several core benefits that a target audience wants. So you've got to think, well, these are the core benefits that I think they would want. And if I let them know that my product can sort that out for them, they might become interested in me, or they might convert, or they might be kept.
And at this point within the digital comms matrix, they can put numerous different ones in. It's not about narrowing it down.
So these are all the core benefits you could use for this one target audience. So there's going to be a minimum of 1. but there could be several, but not hundreds, and not every single core benefit that's met by your PSO. Just this audience and the core benefits it seeks.
Yeah.
So you've got your core benefits, and then think, well, what are the basic product features? And these are the basic things. They're literally what we call the things that are written on the tin that could be interesting for this target audience. Mm-hmm. So, go back to that. There was a product value hierarchy picture in the lecture on that. Yeah. So what is the basic thing that this product does, or offers, or has? So literally, you can see it, and all products have it. All competitor products in that class do it as well.
Right. Okay.
So I did the example of drinks, and different kinds of drink have different basic product features. So like energy drinks, like this one here it is again.
One you prepared
its basic product features. I mean, you can read some of them on the tin, but it's got different basic product features to, say, Coca-Cola or any of the colas. So you need to know, well, which ones are the ones that you could use to attract someone to this product, to get them to convert and to retain them. So those are the basics. And then the more interesting ones are the augmented product features. Now, these are the things that might differentiate your product from someone else's.
Okay.
There might not be things you can write on a tin, but they might be what you call an emergent property. So, it's something people feel about it, or it's, you can't say it because it wouldn't be legal, but you just know it's there. Is it something cool?
It's a bit more intangible as type of feeling.
Yeah. So you think about, particularly around branded things, certain brands give off certain messages, and you're thinking, well, what message or brand value or equity could I use to bring someone in, to convert them or to retain them? So you've got to think about those kind of things. And again, only the things that you think that target audience would be, oh yeah, that's interesting, or would make them convert, or make them be retained. So not every single augmented product lever, not every single basic product feature, just the ones that you could, emphasis on could use.
So the ones that are relevant to that particular audience at that particular stage.
Yeah. And you've got to do that for acquisition, conversion, and retention. Now, you might find that at conversion, you could use all of the same ones that we use for acquisition could also be used for converting, and could also be used for retaining. Or there might be some new ones for conversion and some of the original original acquisition ones. Or it could be all completely new ones. Likewise, for retention, could be some that were acquisition and conversion ones, or none. You might have a whole load of new product features that you want to use to retain someone, because you don't want to mention it when they're being acquired, but maybe it's the thing that keeps them.
Yeah.
And quite a lot of organisations do this. It's only when you've maybe bought for the first time that they then let you know some of the secret stuff.
Right. Okay.
And that's what keeps you sweet about it. I noticed the other day that I got an email from Now TV telling me that they were going to put the price up by £2. And I went, But because I'm a retained customer, they said, okay, it's going up by £2, but now you can download movies to the Now TV app on your phone, which you never could do before. Yeah. So as a retained customer, they used a product feature, which I don't think is augmented anymore. That's basic. If you subscribe to a streaming service, if you can't download movies for watching on the go, people go, not bothered. Yeah. And I think that's what's happened there. So that product feature suddenly became a thing to keep me.
So then that would then become a core product feature.
It became a core product feature, but they only mentioned it to me now as a retained customer. Because they need to keep me, because I'm looking at it going, should I ditch it? I mean, it's gone up by 20% in price.
I'm a Now TV customer. That's slightly off-putting when you just told me I didn't know.
You didn't even know. You didn't even read your emails. You don't even read your bank statements. There you go. It's a great example of a feature being used to keep someone. So product levers, core benefits, basic product features, augmented product features that you could use to acquire, convert, or retain that target audience.
And those augmented product features, those might be things that that person feels, or it could be ways that they've been viewed upon.
Yeah.
Or maybe they're part of a community because they're part of something.
So, and another example of an augmented product feature is unexpectedly good reviews.
Okay.
Particularly compared to your competition.
Right. Okay.
So always think augmented is that thing that makes you different. Something about your product that no one else's product has.
Yeah.
And that could be the brand value stuff.
Yeah.
Or it could be a real feature that you built into something, but it's a differentiator that you know that target audience would be interested in. Okay. And it would get them to be find out more about this, or make them go shut up and take my money, or be kept and retained as a target audience. So that's product. If we then move to pricing, now we have to think, what pricing levers can we use at each stage of the relationship? So you've got to think, what pricing levers will bring people on board? What things would get them to be kept? What things would convert them? You've got to think of price, different things. And you've got to think of your target audience and go, are these people price sensitive? Or are they the kind of people who are more interested in luxury and value items, and price isn't the thing that will attract them? So you've got to make that, you've got to know that about your target audience straight away. And you might want to make it clear and just say, this target audience is a price sensitive audience. You don't need to tell me in the table that that's a thing, but when you come to do some more of the discussion later on, it might be a thing that influences your choice. Evaluation. So when something is a price sensitive thing, if you've got a price sensitive audience, the pricing lever that you use might be really, really important.
And you can use that in different ways, can't you? Because like the example of the holiday one, it might just be as simple as saying cheap holiday or low cost, rather than going, this is £9.99 a month.
Yeah, somebody who is price sensitive is going to be attracted to words like cheap or discount, or words which impart an idea of something, you know, the cash thing being a real issue. So people are if people feel that they're going to take a risk with money, they are price sensitive. If people aren't bothered, they're not, then the price sensitive issue isn't there.
And conversely, that might then mean that, say, if it's holidays and that, then maybe it's luxury holidays. Or, you know, we're using words like that. So it might not actually be the number in terms of price, but it could be how it's conveyed.
Well, that's right. So price can be a sign of luxury or quality, uniqueness,
bespoke.
But it's how you impart that information is really, really important. So you've got to think, what would be the message that would be the lever? So, for example, if you've got an app and the conversion is, I want people to download my app, one of the things that might attract them in the first instance is words like free download. And then in tiny letters, it's got the words in-app purchases. Have you noticed? Nobody ever really shouts out about that, because you're going to get really fussy about spending the same amount of money that you'd spend on a Starbucks coffee on an app. But one of the things that really gets people to come and trial something is it's free. And that's if people are sort of fairly risk averse to the idea of paying for something that they know they're not going to like, which is why we get free downloads, freemium stuff, which is you get the basic product features for free, but the augmented stuff is paid for.
If you want to remove the watermark, you have to pay.
All of that stuff, and you can trial stuff to see if it works for you. And one of the things is that if you're really confident about your product, let people have it free, because when they get hooked on it, I mean, it's the classic drug dealer's deal. Let them have the first hit for free, get them addicted, then they'll start paying. Which is what the 14-day trial account, 30-day, 1 month free. It's what Netflix do. And once you started watching a box set on Netflix, unless you can get through it in a month, you're going to think, oh, I'm going to have to pay $7.99, or it's going up. Is that gone up yet?
I think that was.
I think as well. I know it's gone up in the States.
Yeah.
By $2.
Yeah.
So if you've got a Netflix account here, watch out. It's going to go up by £2.
You heard it here first.
But people will try it if it's not risky, and if you've got an audience that can take lots of different choices, they'll trial something out to see if they like it. Or you could say, well, there's this is a free app to download. You can look at lots of it, but when you want to use a bit of it, you've got to pay.
Yeah.
So there's a kind of free plus a subscription, or free and then per use.
Yeah.
And that might be really good if somebody wants to be only a casual user of something. Quite a lot of games do that.
Yeah.
And they get casual players to part with a little bit of cash.
Yeah.
But then they might offer a different pricing model for people who are well into it.
Yeah.
The sort of eat as much as you can version.
Yeah, and I guess that kind of works if it's maybe subscription models for a particular product.
Yeah.
So if you have only want it like once a week or something versus having it, so I'm thinking things maybe like box meals or something like that.
Yeah.
You might only have it for once or twice a week. If you're going the whole hog and you want it 5 days a week, then obviously you've got a tiered.
And pricing. People like Abel and Cole do that.
Yeah.
Quite a lot of, there's so many food and product services, including the ingredient services or the fully made up meal, bung it in the microwave thing.
Yeah.
And of course, they all do these bundling discounts as well, which is you buy 2 meals, it's this, you buy 5, it's this, you buy 10, it's a different price.
Yeah.
And the 10 meal version is per meal cheaper than the 5 meal version.
Yeah. So you can see the same. It's like with Deliveroo, how it's sort of you pay per visit from Deliveroo, or you can pay for Deliveroo plus, and that's gone up actually. I think it was $7.99, now it's $11.99.
Yeah.
But then you can order as much as you want.
Yeah.
It's like Prime, because once you've paid that lump sum, you're just going to keep ordering from them.
And Amazon Prime is another great example, which is you've paid your £79 a year.
Yeah.
Oh, you're going to order everything off Amazon now, rather than think you're losing £7 a month in delivery fees.
Yeah. Same like ASOS Premium as well.
Yeah, exactly. All of those are really interesting. Here's a fee, and then I need to get my money's worth. There are other ways of looking at price. So you can use price to really get people to sample a product. So your first go for £1.
Yeah.
Or if you're introducing a new product for the first time in a marketplace where other products exist, you could frenzy price it.
Right.
So you go in with an absolutely bonkers price, which is even way below the pricing envelope price. So it's not only not too cheap, it's like I can't even believe they can do it for this price. And one of the reasons why people do frenzy pricing like that is if you think about the pricing envelope, something can be just a bit too cheap, and you think, I'm not going to touch that, it's just a bit too cheap, because that sounds like that's how much it's always going to be. Whereas if something like is that, get your first flight with us for £1, that's unsustainable. Yeah. But you'll have a go.
Yeah. It's unbelievable.
And in frenzy pricing will often bring traffic from a target audience just because they want to find out more about it. So the price can be a little bit for that. But again, conversely, turn it on its head. What about if your product has a frightening price? So you've got price sensitive audience, and that price could put them off, the first sort of hit. So what you do is you're not going to use the price to bring people in if the price could actually frighten them.
Yeah.
So what if it's a bit expensive? So what you've got to do is you've got to get them really interested first, and you're not going to use it to acquire them. It might not be the thing that converts them. It's there.
Yeah.
But you're not going to use the price.
You wouldn't lead with it.
All the other things.
Yeah.
All the other
Look
stuff.
how shiny it is, and celebrities love it.
Yeah. You really want it. Oh wait, it's this much.
Yeah.
That's often the case. And if you think about airlines like Ryanair, all those airlines say that's £39 for this seat on the plane. And then once you're into the process, once you're in the funnel, you then realise there's a load of other stuff to pay for.
If you want oxygen, it's another £40.
You want to choose a particular seat. You want to have luggage. You want to be able to check in early. So all those extras, you don't mention them, and they could double or treble the price of a flight. But what somebody's already committed to the idea that the seat only costs £30 on this plane, and that is what would you say, a dark tricksy pattern?
Yeah,
there's a dark tricksy pattern to to pull them in that way. So it could, you know, if the price is frightening, you've got to think, do we not mention it at all? Do we keep it sort of, we don't let people worry about that?
Or you could think about ways of mitigating it. So things like catalogs like Very, when they have the price, but then they go 0% finance or pay in several easy installments.
Those are all really good pricing. Price
where it's not talking about the actual cost itself, but it's making the cost more manageable if it is price sensitive for you.
And then there's the fourth segment, which is people who are not price sensitive might find the idea of price as a vulgar thing. So they don't want to know.
If you've got to ask, you can't afford it.
And if you insist on telling me, I'm thinking that you're actually a bit of a cheapskate organisation. So you might say, don't use price with this audience. We need to focus on the features. So that's the product levers and pricing levers that you could use. What channels? So what channels can you use to acquire people, convert them, and retain them? If your target audience mentions the channel, you know that you've got to have that channel. So if you said, going to target people who write red shoes as a search on Google, you know that the channel to acquire them is Google. Now that doesn't mean that's the only channel. There may be other ways as well as part of a journey towards conversion. So you might be using your own landing page, which might ultimately become the place where conversions happen. You might be using other channels as well to influence someone to coming and converting, but you must mention the channel that the target audience are on. If it's mentioned, if your target audience is people who type this on Google, you know you've got to use Google as a channel.
It's got to be in there.
If it's a psychographic quality where you said, I'm going to target people who are environmentally conscious, and I know this because they all joined the Facebook page for Greenpeace, then you know that Facebook is a channel for targeting them.
That's where your comms is going to happen.
And then you think, well, what could the comms be? So the tactics. So you could have organic tactics and paid tactics. So what are the organic tactics you can use on each of the channels you mentioned? For acquisition, conversion, and retention. What are the paid tactics you could use? And again, all we're doing is us thinking, what are the ones we could use for that target audience? Which is not every channel in the world and not every single tactic, just the ones you could use. Could use for them.
It's not a task in just listing everything. It's about listing the ones that are relevant.
Exactly.
People get more marks where they can see that.
For conversion, you might find you've got to say to yourself, where will someone have that shut up and take my money moment? And even in the choice of could, on the matrix, it may be one single place. So you might find that it's only going to happen on your website using the product page. And where you might find you've got more than one choice is, for example, say you were looking at holiday lets. Somebody might book on your product page on your website, but they might also book on, say, a listing on Airbnb. So you've got to say, well, where could this happen?
Same if it was something that was maybe sold through, like if they're putting something like Etsy. So they might sell on their own website, they might sell on the high street, they might sell on Etsy. So you've got to decide where that conversion takes place.
Or a listing on eBay, and a listing is a paid tactic. On Etsy, it's a paid tactic. On your own website, your own product page is free. It's organic. So you need to just know what the choices are. And again, for retention, think where are you going to carry out the retention activity? So you look at what your retention comms objective is and go, where would that retention comms objective be carried out? And it depends on what it is you want them to do next. After they've converted, what is the thing that you would have said you want to do next? And again, that could be quite open. In many cases, because you know the identity of the person that you're trying to keep, there may be more opportunities for some quite old school but very reliable organic channels and tactics. So an email from you, your organization to that person maybe, or it might be a text message. So when you buy something, I mean, I bought a holiday recently, and the first thing that happened was the holiday company sent me a text message saying, this is your flight, we're on it straight away. So they were keeping me warm to the idea. And what they wanted me to do at the end, it said, shared that you bought this holiday on. I know what their retention objective is. Just tell everyone else about this holiday you've just bought.
Yeah.
So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to think of all of the levers that we could use in this table to acquire, convert, and retain that single target audience to make you able to achieve that acquisition, conversion, and retention comms objective. So that's what our plan is. So you've done that table, and then what you need to do is you've got some remaining pages as part of task 1, and I want you to evaluate those options.
Okay.
So
this is where the references come in for people who are wondering.
That's right. Yeah. So now you're thinking, what are the pros and cons of each of those particular choices?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you need to be able to tell us how you know something is an advantage or a disadvantage of using that lever, and that will either be referring to secondary data, so that's an open brackets name, comma, year type reference, and a proper, refer me to a reference in your reference list. Or you might have some data that you've generated. Maybe it's, I don't know, it could be from any of the tools we've been discussing over the last 20 weeks that allows you to know something is there. Or the third option is an assumption.
Yeah.
So all you've got to do is make sure that you refer us to a secondary piece of information, a piece of data you've generated, or an assumption.
And how should they show an assumption in the report?
I always say that if you said, we assume people like dancing, open brackets, assumption 3, and then I'll go to the assumption list and look at assumption 3, which is a little bit more detail on why you believe that.
So they should have, just have appendix, they should have the assumptions, and then the references.
Yeah. So what you can't do is just say something and not back it up. Not because we'll just go, how do you know?
Yeah.
How do you know?
You've just decided that on your own.
You can't stay in here. I can't read the head. It has to be a book I can go and look at, or a journal article, or something, or some data that you've got that you've generated yourself, or an assumption you've made.
Yeah.
And you've got several pages to do that. Make sure you check in the assignment booklet itself that there's a very clear instruction about how many additional pages are associated with task 1. So big table, the pros and cons of everything that you could possibly consider. One of the things I've suggested is in your table, you might want to highlight in a magic way which are the levers you think could be coming up. So one of the things that you could do is if your table is all in black text, maybe in red bold text, the levers you think you might use, just so the person who's marking this goes, I know what's coming up now.
I mean, and never be afraid of a bit of color coding.
No,
maybe you've got
color coding is good.
Maybe you've got a purple color for this. That links back.
Whatever makes this document is selling this to the assessor. So whatever makes it easy to do that.
Yeah.
So you've got to create some combinations or clusters of levers. So things that would work well together to acquire someone, things that would work well together to convert them, and things that would work well to retain them. And what we're saying is things that would work well for you to be able to achieve that comms objective.
Yeah.
So acquisition side, look at your acquisition comms objective and go from that list of product levers, pricing levers, organic and paid tactics, and channels, and maybe brand levers. What things would work well together?
Yeah. So the matrix is almost kind of the brainstorm of all the ideas, and then this is where we're kind of narrowing it down. This is what I could do, which could work, and this is then the recommendation. This is the ones that we think would work.
So the language of the matrix is things we could use. The clusters are things we would use. So you're kind of going, I'm not going to use some things. I am going to use some other things. So you need to. You've got 4 pages in total for task 2. 2 of those pages are for clusters that are acquisition, and the other 2 pages are for conversion and retention clusters. And again, up on Moodle is a little template of how to build a little cluster. I used to use these 4 by 6 inch cards that used to get in a card box to write clusters on when I was working with my clients, and I would just say, that's what we're going to build. And it's just a set of decisions saying what we're going to build. One thing I will say is that in a cluster, you can either have an organic or a paid tactic.
Yeah.
You're not having both. You can choose it, and you'll have a single channel. Yeah. So sometimes it's easy to go, this is the channel, this is the tactic. Now what product pricing levers would I use on that tactic?
So one way that we were talking about it in the seminar was someone was saying, so basically, if it was a PPC ad, this is the PPC ad naked.
Yeah.
Like this is the key component.
It's the bits that will go in it before we get all creative.
Before we actually dress it up.
Yeah.
And so having that, I think that your example of the holiday ad and then having the cluster, and people can see that's all visible in the lectures. So you can almost see these are all the key points of it.
Yeah.
Going back to the cluster.
So one of the things I used to do is I'd work with that, and you'd say, right, okay, PPC ad writer and my graphic designer and my copywriter make that happen.
Yeah.
And then they go off and they create the collateral and build the ad for me.
So all the items you need to make the thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Now, in the real world, once you really get into this job, you can stop writing it down. But at the very start of one's career, you have to have it written down so you know what you're doing. Now, in this assignment, 2 pages for the acquisition clusters, 2 pages for the conversion and retention ones together. So you've got to create at least two for acquisition, and at least 1 conversion one, and at least 1 retention one. The implication means that you can do more than 2 acquisition ones, and you can do more than 1 conversion one, and you can do less than that. But don't do less. That's the bare minimum. And the point of that is you are creating a set of decisions. And one of the things I want you to be able to do is put some writing around that little decision. So you need to justify why you've included specific levers in that cluster. Why are they there? And when you say why they're there, you're justifying the inclusion of a lever in your cluster. You need to say, well, I'm putting this here because, okay, and what's your evidence to support that? So again, this needs to be referenced properly.
And so how do you see this coming to life then? Are you seeing it used being almost the cluster template and then the rationale behind why those are there?
Template, and you could be pointing arrows to things. I don't mind how you represent the information, but it's definitely decision, which is done in the template, and some dialogue, and that can be a mixture of narrative, bullets, another table, annotations, annotations, all sorts of things. But I need to be able to go, I know why that's there. And it needs to be referenced
There
properly.
shouldn't be any mysteries in that cluster where you're like, that's nice, but why have you randomly
I don't know why you've done that.
Yeah.
I need to know why you've done it.
Explaining your decisions for why you've made it like that.
And it makes loads of sense if you highlighted something in a colour on your table and then it's turned up in one of the clusters. Imagine the connectivity with that. Also, the other thing you need to think of is what could go wrong if you put this cluster into action. So you've got to critique it. So what are the issues and risks of this combination of levers working together?
Okay.
And again, make sure that you've got something that backs that up, either something you've read, some evidence you've generated yourself, or an assumption. You might assume that something can go wrong. What
would you say is almost? Could you give an example of what a risk could be? A metaphorical risk.
Well, for example, I might say, what could go wrong with this, knowing that it's going to be a pay-per-click ad on Google? Well, I might find that another advertiser outbids me, has better score quality on the advert itself, and I might find that it just simply isn't visible, particularly in a very competitive marketplace. Even though this is probably the right combination of levers to use, I might be just outranked and outbid and outqualityed by everyone else. So you need to know what could go wrong with a select, or you might find that the pricing thing, it could go wrong. It might really put someone off. Maybe you're taking a risk with one of your clusters. The great thing is you can have a play around with this. It doesn't matter if you're wrong, because we'll never know.
I guess if you went for one of the more visual ones, to say like something on Instagram, the creative, you would need to make sure that creative appealed to an audience. It could go wrong that you put the creative out there and you've assumed that they like it, and actually they have a negative reaction.
So it's just that, imagine you're showing this to your boss and your boss says, okay, if we stick this out, what could go wrong? Your boss needs to know what the risks are.
Yeah.
So you need to have those ready, and in the long run, what people say, well, what would you do about it? But I only want to know what the risks are.
It's like a game of chess. You're trying to think what could happen next.
And you might say, well, you know, if you want to take this a real bit further, maybe there were other clusters that you decided not to pursue with this. Why not? What? Because you're not going to say, well, we're not going to do a pay-per-click ad at all. Maybe you decided to go all organic. By not doing anything pay-per-click, what you're missing out on. So just let us know if there was something that you could have put together as a cluster, but you chose not to.
Yeah.
What could go wrong? Again, that's real top end stuff.
Yeah.
So you've done your lead. You've got to do one for, you've got to do some for, at least 2 for acquisition, at least 1 for conversion, at least 1 for retention. So you've got your combinations and clusters of levers. So the thing to think about next is actually building a touch point. And a touch point is, what will this look like for real? And I want you to choose 1 for acquisition, 1 for conversion, 1 for retention. So mock it up.
And this touch point should be based on the clusters. So it shouldn't do all that evaluation around the clusters, and then we get to the touch point. It's like, well, you said you were going to do a PPC ad, and this is suddenly an Instagram organic post.
So it's definitely going to be taking that cluster, we built this touch point.
So like we were saying before about the cluster being the naked touch point, this is then actually making
this is the actual creation.
Yeah.
Now, you can test this yourself by doing your touch point, and then I think you're going to make it clear where each lever in that touch point is demonstrated. So it might be really obvious to you that it's a pay-per-click ad, but make sure it is really obvious to the assessor.
Yeah.
You might think, oh, well, I've really clearly done this as this pricing lever, but can I see it? It might be really subtle.
Yeah.
It might be a semiotic message.
Yeah.
If you've used an image to convey a product feature, point that out, make it obvious, point it out. So clearly indicate how each digital marketing lever that you said you would use is in that touch point. Explain to us why it's the right version to use, because there's more than one way to do a touch point based on even a cluster. So why is this the right one? And make sure you've got anything to support that. And again, highlight this touch point as it stands. What could go wrong with it? So maybe the copy could be misinterpreted, or the image itself could be misinterpreted. Make sure you give us something that explains what could go wrong, and make sure you've got evidence to support your belief. Again, something you've read, data you've got, or an assumption you could make.
And in showing those elements, we're talking about making sure that it's really, really clear that those cluster points are in there. I mean, people can annotate it, they might want to number it, they could use color coding, however they do it.
If you go back to the session on the matrix, the lecture on there was an example of a pay-per-click ad that I'd made. And I literally drawn arrows pointing out. The cheap holiday. I've drawn arrows showing how each lever is represented. And again, the touch point is quite creative. So you're going to be doing something quite creative. So you know, the language in the copy is creative. You need to, you know, show me that it is actually this lever that's been there, a product lever or a pricing lever.
And there's tools that can be used to create the touch points.
So all the paid ads, you know, Google AdWords, Facebook for Business, which does also Instagram, LinkedIn, even Quora, and even actually I was having a look at the Reddit ads the other day. They've all got these. You can effectively simulate an ad using that. If it's organic, you say, well, actually, you know, simulate what the result would look like on Google if it's an organic search result. What would be the phrases? You can do that.
And there's tools that can do that as well. I know we were talking in the seminar. There's the native ones, which you should never put your credit card details in.
Never.
That's the golden rule. But there's some other ones that some of the guys that we're using to build those. To build mock-ups.
I was trying to remember I can't remember if it's SERPstat that actually allows you to simulate. Or it might even be Google Search Console that allows you to simulate an organic search result. But even that doesn't matter. Just you know, mock up what you think the search result would look like, or whatever or a tweet, an organic tweet, or a Facebook post, or whatever the organic tactic is. What is it going to look like? And people laugh about this. They go, do people do this? Well, there was a story about a couple of years ago about the $20,000 tweet where it had taken an organization a month to do a tweet because they'd had to really think about it, because it had, and people joked about it, but people had got the card and they said, right, what will it look like? And it had to go to a committee and something like that. But if you've ever worked with some of these large organizations, I mean, Aldi and Lidl were notorious for you couldn't send anything else until it had been approved. So this stuff does go on.
Absolutely, in all agencies, you create this, and you have the initial copy for it, and then it would have all the creative put on it, and then you send it to a client. The client might not like it.
And you can bet your boots that your head of SEO, head of PPC, and all that, you're going to want to see these before they go out.
Approvals.
Definitely. So that's what we're looking for there, and that's pretty much section C. So that's what we're looking for: the matrix, the pros and cons, clusters with that narrative around the decision making, and touch points, which are the 3 examples: 1 acquisition touch point, 1 conversion touch point, 1 retention one.
Clusters brought to life.
And that's that. So make sure you have a look at all of the information in the assignment about how to submit it. Go back and have a look at lecture 18A on the assignment submission rebrief number 3, and also go and have a listen to the lecture capture from that day. There's an enormous amount of information there. Now, Lewis has just asked, do we do the pros and cons within the matrix? No. Matrix as a on the A3 piece of paper, and then there are some extra A4 bits. Have a look in the assignment rebrief. I'll just check it myself. You've got 3 A4 sides as well as the matrix itself, just for task 1, and that's where you will do the pros and cons of items that appear in the matrix. It's more than enough. Remember, the matrix shouldn't be stuffed with every possible choice there is. Only choices that you could consider for that target audience to achieve those comms objectives. So you might not find it's very full at all, and therefore the evaluation is only of items that appear in that, and they should appear in that additional 3 A4 sides max for the evaluation of items.
And that's max, so people shouldn't be trying to aim for the very end of it. Obviously, you want it to be robust, you want to do a complete analysis, but this isn't just word filler.
It's a max.
This is about being as concise.
No guff, no waffle, nice and tight. We're not looking for an essay. We are literally and again, some people might think that a table format for the evaluation works really well, and I'm absolutely fine with that too.
As long as you've got the evidence to support it and it's clear what your points are, so not just writing a word and then it's not clear what's meant.
Okay. Chris has asked, do we need to use references to justify the levers we have put into our touch points? So if you are looking at the touch points, what you have to do is justify why this final touch point is the right one to use. You've already gone through the process of justifying the inclusion of levers in the clusters themselves. So by the time we come to touch points, we already know why those levers are in there. In the touch point itself, I want to know why this final whole touch point is the right one. That's where the justification is. So cluster justifications for each thing, they're fine. In the touch point, why is this touch point in its wholeness the right one to use? So I think that should make more sense. Right, okay, we are coming towards the end of our time. In the next YouTube live, we're going to be looking at section D, which is the evaluation of team's own work. What we've got in the workshops now is probably driving through examples of this, and obviously things that anybody wants to talk about. So thanks a lot for listening, folks. This recording should be ready in a couple of minutes and will be available through the Moodle page pretty shortly. All right.
Awesome.
Thanks a lot, guys. See you all soon.